Before or after this podcast, go check out built.com. If you are looking for a snack bar that is high in protein, has delicious flavors, and is made with 100% real chocolate, then this is the place for you to go. Use BreDavis10 for discount at checkout. Have you been trying to start a fitness routine, but you just can't get in the hang of it, or you're not really sure what to do every day? Well, go check out GrownStrong.com, a program created for women by women with an active, supportive online community, as well as options for 20, 40, 60, or 80-minute programming, starting from beginner all the way to elite options. This will help you reach your goals by getting 1% better every day. Finally, maybe you're trying to start a workout, but someone is using the timer at the gym, or you need a portable one, small enough to fit in your pocket, but large enough to never miss a round. Then go to gsgotimer.com. It has a magnetic back for convenience and comes in many fun colors. Hello, and welcome to Dr. Bree Davis, the podcast, hosted by me, Dr. Bree. But to pretty much everyone other than a few of my patients, I just go by Bree. Hello, everyone. It is almost summertime here, at least in the Pacific Northwest. So for those of you who don't live here, this is huge for us. As the weather changes, we truly get all of the seasons here. So we really haven't seen the sunlight since, like last summer. So for those of you that suffer from seasonal depression, this will definitely be exciting for us. I tend to think the rain and clouds, as it gets darker earlier and less sunlight, doesn't really affect me much until spring and summer come and there's extra sunshine and extra daylight, and it just gives me that extra boost of energy and that extra pep in my step. So fun fact, did you know that sunlight increases the production of serotonin in your body? This is important because serotonin, like we've talked about in the past, is a happy hormone and is needed for your body in order to produce melatonin. So when you get access to sunlight in the morning, you're actually assisting your body in producing happy hormones as well as sleep hormones. So today we're going to talk about the sun, sunlight, sunshine, daylight, and specifically vitamin D. So I learned a new term, and it's actually called heliophilia, and it's the desire to stay in the sun, the love for sunlight, and this is definitely me, 100%. So before we start, some summertime sunshine hacks. Some of these may seem obvious, like wearing sunscreen and hats or sunglasses for protection, but here are some not so obvious things. Did you know some raspberry oil is a natural sunscreen, and it can cover up to 28 to 50% comparable SPF? So mix this with your foundation, maybe your makeup or some other lotion for increased coverage. Do you have a sunburn? Have you ever tried cactus juice? Similar to aloe vera, it has burn-reducing and cooling ingredients that help your skin heal. So now that summer is starting, hopefully you're able to chill in the sunshine, maybe go visit a beach or soak up your daily dose of vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, that way. So how does this work, you may ask? Well, when your skin is exposed to sunlight, it makes vitamin D from cholesterol. The sun's ultraviolet B, UVB rays, hit cholesterol in the skin cells, and this provides energy for vitamin D synthesis to occur. Vitamin D is a unique vitamin that most people actually don't get enough of. It's estimated that about 40% of at least American adults have a vitamin D deficiency. So the sun is great for this, but too much sunlight comes with its own health risks as well. But first, why do we need vitamin D? Well, with low vitamin D levels, these have been linked to serious health consequences, including osteoporosis, cancer, depression, muscle weakness, and death. If you're not trying to get vitamin D through the sun, there's actually only a handful of foods that contain a significant amount of vitamin D. These include beef liver, egg yolks, sardines, cod liver oil, swordfish, salmon, and tuna. That said, you would need to eat them nearly every day to get enough vitamin D. Therefore, sometimes people take vitamin D supplements. Most professionals actually suggest about 2,000 IU per day of vitamin D to be the minimum amount to maintain your levels. If you're trying to raise your levels, sometimes people double this dose to 4,000 IU per day for about 3 months or the dark months, or until your test results change. However, there are downsides and side effects of overdosing on vitamin D, so it's important to get blood work done or consult a doctor if you think that this might be the case. So sun can be amazing, but it's important to note that sun's UVB rays cannot penetrate through windows. So people who work next to sunny windows are still prone also to vitamin D deficiencies. You may ask, when is the best time to get sunlight? Well, midday. So at noon, the sun is at its highest point. Therefore, the UVB rays are the most intense and direct, which means you will need to spend less time in the sun to get your sufficient vitamin D amount. Many studies have actually shown, too, that the body is most efficient at getting vitamin D at noontime. A study showed that 13 minutes of midday sunlight exposure during the summer, 3 times per week, is enough to maintain healthy levels among Caucasian adults. Another study also found that 30 minutes of midday summer sun exposure was equivalent to about 10,000 to 20,000 IU of vitamin D. So we need to think about, too, the color of our skin. So the color of your skin plays an influence in this as well. The color of your skin is determined by something in your skin called melanin. People with darker skin or who tan easier have more melanin than people with lighter skin. Melanin helps protect the skin against damage from excess sunlight, so it acts as a natural sunscreen and absorbs the sun UV rays to defend against sunburn and skin cancers. A side note though, because of this, then darker skinned or people who tan easier with more melanin will need to spend a longer amount of time in the sun than lighter skinned people to produce the same amount of vitamin D. Studies estimate that darker skinned people may need anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours longer to get sufficient vitamin D compared to lighter skinned people. And this is also a major reason why darker skinned people have a higher risk of vitamin D deficiency, because it just takes them longer to produce vitamin D through sun exposure. So what about where you live? Well, people living in areas farther away from the equator make less vitamin D in their skin and may need more sun exposure to meet their vitamin D needs. Sound familiar, Pacific Northwest people who are listening? So this is where I live, and although this is an amazing place to live, in these areas like the Pacific Northwest, more of the sun's rays, especially UVB rays, are absorbed by the Earth's ozone layer. People who live farther from the equator may not produce any vitamin D from the sun for up to 6 months a year during the darker months of the year. So how much skin needs to be exposed to the sun? Well, vitamin D is, like I said before, from cholesterol in the skin. That means you need to expose skin to the sunlight to make enough. So some studies recommend exposing about 1/3 of your body's skin to the sun for best efficiency. And a study showed that wearing a sleeveless top and shorts for 10 to 30 minutes 3 times per week during the summer could be sufficient for most people with the lighter to medium dark skin. Always important, though, to make sure that while we're doing this, we're preventing burning and protecting our skin from damage that could cause skin cancer, whether that's with sunscreen, hats, sunglasses, or etc. Sunscreen helps to reflect and absorb and scatter sunlight rays, so that's why it often works best, and we can rely on this to help protect ourselves from the sun. But does sunscreen affect the creation of vitamin D, you may ask, because it blocks the sun from hitting our skin? Well, some studies estimate that sunscreen, or SPF 30, may reduce vitamin D production in the body by about 95 to 98%. However, there's several other studies that have shown that wearing sunscreen has only a small impact on your vitamin D blood levels during the summer. So, however, most of these studies were short-term, it's still unclear to us whether one outweighs the other. But we do know that regular sun exposure is the most natural way to get enough vitamin D. So, there are many benefits of sunlight, but what are the dangers and downsides? Well, sunburns, it's the most harmful effect of too much sunlight. So, symptoms of this could be redness, swelling, pain, blisters, eye damage. So long-term exposure to UV light can actually damage your retina, and this can increase your chances of diseases like cataracts and other eye diseases, as well as simply just damage your eyesight. Heat stroke, also sometimes known as sunstroke, and this condition is where your body's core temperature may rise just too much during the heat and sun exposure and is unable to cool itself down. Also, for you athletes or people that like to work outside during the summer, this is something that may happen quicker than if it was cooler out because your body is working harder, but the weather outside and temperature is also hotter as well. Skin cancer, too much UV light, is a major cause of skin cancers. Aging skin, finally, spending too much time in the sun can cause your skin to age faster, and some people may develop more wrinkled, loose, or leathery skin. Also, if you have any healing wounds, the sun can also cause these to scar and create dark spots in your skin texture. Finally, just skin changes in general. Freckles, moles, or other skin changes can be side effects of excess sun exposure. Some of these are not negative, but other of these can cause and lead to /be signs of skin cancer. So along with sunlight, I also want to talk about daylight. So daylight is crucial for mammals, and we as humans are mammals, for our vision and for our mood and so many other things, but as well as the input it gives from our vision to our brain about our circadian clock rhythms. So our sleep-wake cycle, which is based on a 24-hour day-night cycle. Sunlight and daylight can positively impact our mood. It can decrease stress and depression, and it can increase our learning ability, and this has been seen through animals as well as humans. It can increase and have positive effects on our cognition, our alertness, our performance, and like I said, our sleep. And because of this, light can be considered one of the greatest drugs to treat many clinical conditions. So light exposure therapy, like red light therapies or LED happy light therapies, are often used to improve depression and circadian rhythm disorders, as well as cortisol impact on the body and stress. There still is a significant gap between the importance of daylight for humans and the lack of research that's being done on this. So daylight is taken for granted, often also as an environmental factor, either whether it's to be enjoyed or avoided. But we need more daylight awareness in our architecture and our daily life and our work conditions that could lead to higher quality living environments. Because of the evolution of circadian clocks and the entrainment to the 24-hour light-dark cycle that occurred under naturalistic conditions long before the invention of electricity and other light sources, technology other than the sun, more research needs to be done on how huge this can impact us from these outside light sources. For example, like our electronics, it is still registered in our brain as white light, similar to the sun, just not as intense as obviously the sun, which is a pretty significant powerhouse. So how does the lack of daylight affect us? Well, it can create attention deficits in the short term, stress, difficulty falling asleep, impulsive behaviors, reduced empathy, poor memory, and low creativity. In the long term, we can have a weakened immune system, mental health issues, psychological and physiological stress, increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, and other diseases, as well as causes of diabetes. Thinking about this in children, too, the developing child's lack of natural daylight exposure is a major consequence of increased time spent indoors and online, or in a classroom that doesn't have it, or in a classroom without recess or breaks. This is currently being correlated with multiple health risks ranging from physiological disorders like sleep or obesity, psychological problems like depression and anxiety, and cognitive impairment, and attention disorders. And vice versa, too much from electronics mixed with the ease and instant reward of electronics can make them feel dependent and actually start to create addictive behaviors in our children, resulting in sensory and behavior dysregulation issues as well. So light and daylight and sunlight directly affect our mood, and that being said, mood disorders. So the link between affective disorders and our circadian rhythms has a long history in that altered sleep-wake cycle and our mood shifts that have been documented since early psychiatric literature days. In our modern times, it's been found that circadian disruptions, so sleep disruptions due to work, light at night, electronics at night, can create these negative effects in humans. There's been research done on animal models that suggests that even short-term exposure in nighttime can trigger depressive-related symptoms and increase depressive-related behaviors and learning that sometimes can be reversible with antidepressant drugs. But again, do we really want to have to treat this with a drug when we could treat this naturally by just preventing and avoiding some of these things in the first place? On the other hand, bright light is also an established antidepressant for seasonal and other depression disorders. So think about a daily walk outdoors can similarly improve your mood and decrease sadness compared to some antidepressant medication. Some other interesting facts is that daylight may be effectively used in our circadian rhythm environment. For example, in hospitals, in order to improve patients in their healing cycle and improve effects of other therapeutic interventions, it is important for them to also get some sunlight and daylight while being held in a hospital for treatment. This can also affect an individual's clock and relevant timing for drug administration and timing of when treatment and modalities could have the most positive effect. So from a healthcare perspective, this is an interesting impact as well. This still needs to be studied more. I mentioned a little bit earlier, so access to natural daylight nowadays is unfortunately not considered a high need. So it's actually becoming an aim for institutions worldwide like WHO, the World Health Organization, where they want to create healthy city concepts that allow us to have green spaces, but some green spaces don't actually require sunlight, So they want to start to require accessibility to daylight, and that should be a part of our global discussions about sustainable, healthy living and well-being. And this is actually going to be included in the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development for WHO's Health for All policies. Finally, I've talked about artificial light being used as benefit for light exposure, like light in the mornings in our environments where maybe you wake up before the sun rises, or while it's still cloudy or gloomy out during winter days. But vice versa can negatively impact our light needs by using artificial lights, specifically electronics, at times in the day that do not match our natural light cycles. So, for example, at the end of the day, after the sun has set, while we're in bed, or before bed. So, a life hack I mentioned in one of my earlier episodes is to try some blue light glasses. So, this blocks out some of that unwanted white light to be able to help you keep those circadian rhythms and negate some of those effects that white light can have on your body. Or you could try to find some other hobbies that don't involve your phone or TV at nighttime. Finally, on the opposite end, in the mornings, if you're feeling like you're a little bit sluggish, go try a happy light, which is an LED light essentially, and you can get some of these on Amazon. And this can help you wake up earlier, feel better, and get your body moving a little bit faster, including getting your brain moving a little bit faster as well. Super excited to have shared just this small amount of information on sunlight and daylight. Because where I'm from and living, it's almost summer, and daylight and sunlight is getting longer by the second and longer by the minute daily until at least summer solstice, the day with the longest daylight of the year. So go take advantage of it. Enjoy it. Happy almost summertime.